We've got a brand new Epcot Lightning Lane video for 2026 with updated recommendations on what you should book first, what you should book after that, and how to get the most fun packed into your Epcot day. We got a lot to do, so let's get to it. Hi, hello everybody, this is Rob with the Ear Scouts coming to you from Epcot at the Flower and Garden Festival. We're here to make a brand new Lightning Lane video for 2026. If you can believe it, it's actually been over a year and a half since we've done a Lightning Lane strategy guide for Epcot. So obviously some things have changed since then. There's a brand new version of Test Track now that is super popular. So we've got updated recommendations on which rides you should focus on first in order to get the most done in your day. And we're also going to share with you some of our best tips for how to use Lightning Lane but not let it take over your day. So you still have time to enjoy things like the Flower and Garden Festival or whatever festival is running when you're here, or exploring the World Showcase. We've got a lot of stuff to cover in today's video, so we're gonna just jump right into it. And my very first tip, no matter which park you're in, if you're using Lightning Lane Multipass, you wanna make sure that you've got at least something booked as soon as possible for when you're planning to arrive at the park. That's because when you first get here, you're going to be locked. You can only have one Tier 1 attraction. You can have two Tier 2s, but you're limited to just one Tier 1. Also, if you're planning to park hop later in the day, you can't book attractions in other parks until you unlock yourself. Now, the way that you unlock yourself is simply by tapping in to your first Lightning Lane of the day. So if you're starting your day here at Epcot, you need to have something booked so that you can just go tap in somewhere, unlock yourself, and then you are free to have multiple Tier 1 attractions. And here in this park, that is key, because the most difficult Lightning Lanes to book, especially as the day goes on, are all Tier 1s. So unlocking is super important. We were actually really lucky this morning. We were able to get an attraction that we really wanted. It was on our must-do list, and we were able to grab it for $9.15. So it's $9.05 right now. In case you weren't aware, you can tap into Lightning Lanes 5 minutes early, and you also have a grace period on the end that we'll talk about a little bit later. But I'd like to go ahead and make use of that grace period on our first Lightning Lane so that we can start booking our next Lightning Lane as soon as possible. So let's head on over to our first ride of the day, Soarin'. That was a lovely ride to start the day. Unfortunately, it was a really long wait. Soarin' is actually about to become a brand new attraction to celebrate the semi-quincentennial, I think I said that correctly, of the United States. It's going to become Soaring Across America, which is going to feature brand new scenes from sea to shining sea here in the US. And I'm actually really excited about that. It's kind of the superpower of that attraction, is it can turn into something else without them having to completely rebuild everything. But they do have to test things with the new version, and that's why they're down to just 2 bays. That was a posted wait of 15 minutes. It actually took us 30 minutes to ride that attraction. In the end though, it's totally fine because we've still got 20 minutes before we need to tap into our next Lightning Lane. And that's gonna give me time to grab a cup of coffee and tell you why I booked what I booked first here at Epcot. Our next Lightning Lane this morning is going to be Mission Space, which is over here in World Discovery, right across from World Nature. My plan for this morning is to try to knock out everything I can up here at the front of the park as quickly as possible. So that frees me up to be able to move back into World Showcase and enjoy exploring that area of the park without having to keep coming back and forth up to the front to do Lightning Lanes. It can sometimes be very difficult to work everything out that neatly, but so far we're off to a great start. The other thing that's really important though, as you're booking your first lightning lanes, is to think about which lightning lanes are going to be more difficult to book later in the day. Those most popular lightning lanes in each park, in some cases, they'll all be sold out before you even get here to the park. Now don't worry, Disney is going to sprinkle in some more throughout the day, assuming that attraction is running efficiently. And also, people sometimes change their plans and they let go of lightning lanes, and if you happen to be looking when they let one go, you can swoop in and grab it. But really the name of the game is to try to avoid having to do that as much as possible. You want to book those key lightning lanes that are going to be super hard to grab as early as you can. And if you don't come here all the time, you might not know which lightning lanes those are. For that reason, we created what we call the lightning lane deck. And this is essentially like a deck of cards. And the ace in the deck is going to be the most difficult to book lightning lane in that particular park. Here at Epcot, the undisputed ace of the deck right now is the reimagined test track. That is the ace, and I'm happy to say that we actually already have that one in our pocket. That was one of our pre-booked lightning lanes. Now, Test Track is a tier 1, meaning that we could only have one attraction in that tier. It was Test Track, and that meant that the other tier 1 attractions we couldn't book until we tapped in back there at Soarin. As you can see, that was a big deal because the king and the queen in our deck right now are Frozen Ever After and Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. And those are the other tier 1 attractions in this park. They're also both attractions that are further back into World Showcase. But that's okay, because they are hard to book, it's likely that we're gonna get a late return time for them anyway. So it's not the end of the world that we're gonna get a later time, because that's when we're gonna wanna ride them. In fact, as soon as I was in that line at Soarin, that's exactly what I did. I went ahead and booked the king in the deck, which is Frozen Ever After, and then because I had time to wait in that line, I went ahead and I backed that time up a little bit. Right now, I've got it for around 3 o'clock, which is not too bad. I might try to back it up a little bit more, but 3 o'clock, that's perfectly fine for my plan if that's where it ends up staying. Later in this video, I'm going to share with you some tips for how we back up lightning lanes, but if you want a full and detailed explanation, be sure to check out our lightning lane guide for 2026. It has all of our best tips and tricks, and it's going to teach you everything you need to know about using Lightning Lane Multipass, Single Pass, and Premier Pass. The jack in the deck right now is actually Soarin, which we've already ridden now. We've taken that card out of the deck for the day. I do think that this attraction is going to become more popular once that new version of Soarin opens up. You're going to want to check out our updated decks. We keep an updated version of decks for all the different parks online. You can visit earscouts.com/deck, and I recommend you do that before your trip because you'll want to see the latest rankings for all the lightning lanes in the different parks. The 10 in the deck is the next ride that we have booked, Mission Space. We'll be able to tap in there in just a little bit. The 9 in the deck is right next door, Spaceship Earth. The 8 is currently Journey into Imagination with Figment. 7 is a show, Turtle Talk with Crush. I would say with Turtle Talk, you really probably don't need to book a lightning lane for that, but if you did want to book it, it's relatively easy to get. The number 6 lightning lane is Living with the Land. Number 5 is The Seas with Nemo and Friends, and rounding out the deck at number 4 is the Disney and Pixar Short Film Festival over at the Magic Eye Theater. You really never need a lightning lane for that Disney and Pixar Short Film Festival. If you want to check it out, you can always get into that with no wait, but that lightning lane can be very handy if you've not been able to grab anything early in the day so that you can tap in and unlock yourself. There's almost always lightning lanes available over there at that Pixar theater. You can book that for when you're planning to arrive at the park and just use that lightning lane to unlock yourself. Otherwise, though, I don't think it's probably worth booking that one. If you want to visit that attraction at any point, you can get in without a lightning lane. Well, I've got a whole lot more details to share, but right now we've got to go tap in at our next lightning lane because that's the only way we're going to be able to book another one. With Lightning Lane Multipass, you have 3 slots at all times, but whenever you use one of those lightning lanes or it expires or you cancel it, that frees that slot up to book something else. So let's go ride Mission Space and free up another slot. Man, I love that ride, but it is definitely one of the most polarizing rides in all of Walt Disney World. If when you were a kid, you always wanted to be an astronaut and go into space, you're probably gonna dig this ride. And if you have kids who are really excited about growing up to become astronauts, they're gonna dig that ride. But here is who is not gonna dig that ride. If you get motion sickness, or you just had a really huge meal, you probably don't want to go straight to ride Mission Space, especially not the orange mission. So this is an attraction that's actually broken into two parts. There's the orange mission that you can choose if you want a more thrilling, intense experience. And then there's the green mission, which is still, I'm not going to say it's like a walk in the park. It's still definitely got some motion to it. And if you have motion sickness, you might not even be able to tolerate green, but it's not nearly as bad as orange. Because in orange, you're going to feel the G-forces. It's basically a huge centrifuge that's going to spin you so fast that you're like plastered to the back of the wall. I love it. I love the sensation. I love how it feels. But let's just say this is the only attraction I know of in Walt Disney World that has barf bags in the ride vehicle, and that should give you a sense of what you might be dealing with if you have motion sickness issues. It's also important to note that this is one of the few attractions that has essentially two different rides you can ride, but your lightning lane is only going to allow you to ride one of them. So when you get there, you can tap in at either mission that you choose, but that essentially validates the lightning lane for that attraction. And with all rides using lightning lane, you can only use that lightning lane once per attraction. There are some rare exceptions to that, like for example, if a ride went down when you had it booked and you didn't get to ride, you would get what's called an experience redemption, which lets you ride a whole bunch of different rides, and then you could rebook that attraction that went down. The good news about an experience redemption, though, is it doesn't have that same limitation. If you've already ridden a ride with a lightning lane, you can use that experience redemption to ride it again. But that's pretty much the only way that you're going to get to ride an attraction multiple times in one day using Lightning Lane. Well, as soon as we tapped in there, I did go ahead and book our next Lightning Lane. Now, you might be thinking, based on the deck, that I would be aiming for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. That's the Queen. We already had the Ace and the King, but I didn't go in that direction, and here's why. You remember how I said my plan was to try to finish up everything I could up here at the front before I headed back into World Showcase? Well, I'm starting to put that plan into motion. I wanted to book another attraction that I could get really quickly right here at the front, ideally the next one in my deck, which would be Spaceship Earth. And that's what I recommend you do. Don't treat this deck like a Bible. Don't think, oh, I have to book this next because it's the next card in the deck. Think about your plan for the day. Think about which attractions are most important to you, and use the deck as a guide to let you know, okay, I'm making this choice, but I know probably this ride is going to be more difficult to book later. And that's what we did. We're rolling the dice. We think we're still going to be able to get Remy without a problem later today. And we have something to ride right now in the front of the park, and that is Spaceship Earth. Before we go ride it though, let's take a look at what our lightning lanes look like right now. So we have Spaceship Earth for right this moment. We can go ride it now. After that, at 11 o'clock, we have Test Track. And then later this afternoon, back in World Showcase, we have Frozen Ever After. We've got a pretty great lineup, and I feel comfortable once I tap in over here at Spaceship Earth. That'll be a good moment for me to go ahead and try to book Remy. But first, we've got to go back in time on one of the most iconic attractions here at Epcot, Spaceship Earth. That is the most iconic attraction in all of Epcot. If you've never done Spaceship Earth, you have to do it at least once. It really does kind of represent the old school Epcot, which was kind of more about edutainment, and it was still fun, it was still entertaining, but it was more about rides that were very much geared towards teaching you something, in this case, about the history of communication. Don't get me wrong, I love the new rides that have been coming in. Guardians of the Galaxy is one of my favorite rides in all of Walt Disney World, but it's nice that we have these classic attractions to kind of keep Epcot grounded in what it was meant to be from its founding. As soon as we tapped in back there at Spaceship Earth, we went ahead and focused on booking our last really difficult to grab ride. This was the last of our face cards, Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. We were successful, but it definitely took us a few tries to get it. And I do want to show you really quickly a tip that's going to help you a lot if you're aiming for a tough to book ride like Remy. We're here today on Easter Sunday. I love to film these Lightning Lane videos on holiday weekends because I kind of want to show you worst case scenario. Today, Lightning Lane is completely sold out. So this is basically as many people aiming for Lightning Lanes as you're ever gonna have. It's like the difficulty is turned up to 9. Now, it's not turned up to 10, however, because I'm only booking for myself today. If you have a party that is larger than 4, it will be even more difficult to book. But in my experience, parties of 1 to 4 are really kind of about the same. But even with a party of 1 on a day like today, it's definitely challenging to grab those most difficult to book rides. The most important tip I have to share on this front is not to book the ride directly. Now that might sound counterintuitive. If I'm aiming for Remy, why wouldn't I just go ahead and book Remy if I saw it come available? Well, you could certainly try, but let me show you what happens when you book a Lightning Lane from scratch. It's going to ask you who all is in your party. By the time you've selected your party and moved on to confirm it, in many cases, that time slot is long gone and you won't have that attraction booked. What I recommend doing instead, go ahead and book whatever you can grab easily. Select the members of your party that you want to ride the ride you're ultimately aiming for, which in this case is Remy. Once you've done this and you've booked this ride, you can modify this Lightning Lane and try to turn it into Remy. When you do that, it's going to use the party that you selected for that new attraction. You don't have to take the time to select them. And let me tell you, on a day like today, those seconds matter, especially for a ride like Remy. So that's exactly what we did, and we were able to turn it into Remy without a problem. In fact, we were even able to back it up a little bit. But I do want to show you really quickly how you go about modifying a Lightning Lane, either to get an earlier time or to switch it to something else. If it's a tough to book ride like Remy, you're going to want to start by asking the Genie for a little bit of help. The Genie is a system that lets you choose the attractions that are most important to you, and it will offer you suggestions of when you might want to do those attractions during your day. But the other benefit of the Genie is it will pin those attractions to the top of your view when you're booking or modifying Lightning Lanes. So just go ahead and tap on My Plans, and then on that screen, you're going to see something that says Add Preferences. If you've already set preferences, it'll say Edit Preferences instead, but we're just setting it up. So we're going to say Add Preferences. It's going to ask you some basic questions like what day it is, what park you're going to, who all is going with you to that park, but ultimately, it's going to ask you which attractions you're most interested in. In this case, you only want to choose the rides that you're aiming for at that moment and limit yourself to 2 or 3. If you have a whole bunch of stuff pinned, it really kind of defeats the purpose of having it there at the top. Once you've selected your attractions, it's going to ask you if you're interested in other things like princesses. Just skip that for now. We don't want to add any more things to the top of our view. We just want those rides. Now that we've done that, let's go ahead and tap on the Lightning Lane that we've booked and that we want to change into Remy. A little menu is going to pop up and you're going to choose Modify from that menu. Now you're going to see the ride that you have booked there at the top. It'll show you the time you have it booked for. Below that, it'll show you the time you could book it for right then. If you were to scroll down, you would see other attractions you could book instead. If you're not happy with what you're seeing, or you're not finding the attraction you really want, in our case Remy, all you got to do is take your finger, slide it down the screen, and refresh your view. This is going to cause it to go back and look and see if there are more times available. In my videos, I like to call this playing the Disney slots because it's kind of like playing a slot machine game. You spin the reels on the slot machine and you hope you hit the jackpot. This can be a really challenging process and it can take a long time to do it. So that's why I recommend do this when you're in line for an attraction. Do it when you're waiting for your food to come up at a restaurant. There are moments in your day where you've really got nothing better to do, and that's the best time to play the slots. But most importantly, you need to think of this not as a tool for booking rides, but more like a game, in this case a slot machine game, because if you think of it as a tool, you're going to find this to be so frustrating. It is really difficult on busy days like today to get the ride that you're aiming for, but if you turn it into a game, especially if you make it a competitive sport between the members of your group to see who can grab that ride, it changes it from being a chore into being something that's kind of fun. I actually love playing the Disney slots now when I'm using Lightning Lane. In some cases, I have almost as much fun booking the ride as I do riding it. But the reward for playing the game is we get to ride amazing rides like this next one we're heading to right now. We're headed to Test Track, the ace in the deck. We're right in the middle of that Lightning Lane window, so this is a great time for us to go tap in, and that's gonna free up that slot to book something else. Let's go do it. As with any good Disney ride, you exit through the gift shop, and I think this is probably officially the most expensive gift shop in all of Walt Disney World. If you need to pick up a new General Motors vehicle though, this is a pretty sweet showroom. I really do like the update to that attraction. I think it's a lot more fun. The finale, I feel like, is a much bigger wow moment. If you haven't done this attraction since it's been updated, you should definitely check it out. We have one ride left here in World Discovery, and it is the big one. It is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, my favorite ride in all of this park, but unfortunately, that one is not available with Lightning Lane Multi-Pass. For that one, you have to purchase what's called a single pass Lightning Lane. Essentially, you're buying a Lightning Lane for just that one ride, and you gotta buy it for every person who wants to ride it. Now, I was able to grab a Lightning Lane for that when I was pre-booking, so it's much later in the day today though. I am going to try to back that up though, because ideally I would love to do it before we go back into World Showcase so I don't have to come back up here to the front of the park in the middle of the afternoon. Backing up single pass Lightning Lanes is a little bit different than multi-pass. So when you tap on Modify for a single pass Lightning Lane, you're going to get a slightly different screen. This is because with single pass Lightning Lanes, you can actually modify the day that you have them on as well. If you want to play the slots on this screen, there are two different ways to do it. One is you could just change the date back and forth to a different date and then back to the date you're on. Each time you do that, it's going to refresh the view and look to see if there are other time slots available. The other option, if you have a park hopper ticket or an annual pass, scroll down a little bit and you're going to see all the different park icons there. That's what allows you to switch your Lightning Lane to a Lightning Lane that's in a different park. But in our case, we can use it to refresh the view. So just go ahead and tap on one of those other parks. You'll see it refreshes everything when it does that, and it'll look to see if there are more times available. If you get lucky, however, and a time does show up, even if it's not the time you want, you should go ahead and tap in on it. That's because once you're on that confirmation screen, you don't have to accept that new time, and there's a button in there that says Modify Time. This is a much easier way to repeatedly check for new times because you just keep tapping on that one button. It'll keep searching and seeing if there's anything else available. Up at the top, you're going to see a timer. That timer is going to tell you how much time you have left before you either have to settle on this new time or go back to what you had before. We haven't had any luck yet, but we're going to keep trying to back up that time for Guardians of the Galaxy, but either way, we've got it, and it is part of our Epcot day. The other thing that we've got right now is a lightning lane for Living with the Land. So we're heading back over into World Nature. We're going to burn through all of these attractions up here at the front, and then it'll be time to head into World Showcase and enjoy the beautiful Flower and Garden Festival. Let's go do it. That is such a beautiful and relaxing ride, and it's even more beautiful if you're here for the holidays because they do something called glimmering greenhouses where the whole attraction's covered in Christmas lights. That's one you definitely want to do at night. But if you're at any other time of the year, you want to do that one during the day. I bring up glimmering greenhouses though because once that starts, this is going to become a much more popular lightning lane. It'll definitely rise in the rankings. So if you're going to be here around the holidays, check out the latest deck. We'll keep it updated for you over at earscouts.com/deck. As soon as we tapped in, I went ahead and booked the Seas with Nemo and Friends. That was one of the 2 lightning lanes left that I wanted to book. And that brings me to another point, which is when people are using lightning lanes, sometimes they get very tunnel focused. They think, okay, if we're going to ride that ride, we need to book that lightning lane. That's really not always the case. Sometimes there are attractions that it just makes more sense to hop in a short wait. For example, right here, Journey into Imagination with Figment has a posted 15-minute wait. Why would we bother taking the time to book that lightning lane and back it up when we can just get in this line and ride it? And guess what? If we do that, we are done booking lightning lanes for the day because we already have Remy, we already have Frozen, we already have the Seas with Nemo and Friends. The only other 2 lightning lanes left in the park are Turtle Talk with Crush and the Magic Eye Theater, which has that Disney Pixar short film festival. You really do not need lightning lanes for either of those. It is extremely rare that you would not be able to get into the very next show, which is what you'd be able to do with a lightning lane. So we're gonna go ride Journey into Imagination, and when we get out, I'm gonna share with you some of the secrets that we used to back up lightning lanes, and then we're gonna enjoy the festival. Let's go do it. Posted wait was 15 minutes and the actual wait was just 15 minutes. I really love doing a standby line every now and then when I'm on a lightning lane day, especially if it's not too long. And the reason for that is twofold. One, it means I don't have to bother with booking that lightning lane. But 2, it gives me an opportunity to kind of focus on playing the slots and really optimizing the lightning lanes that I have to come, or maybe booking one that I haven't been able to grab yet. But I want to show you right now though, one of the most common mistakes that I make, especially when I'm sort of going through a line like that. So I'm going to show you in real time on the screen right now. This was my screen as I was going through. We're going to speed it up. And then look at what happens right now. So you see, there was a perfect time that popped up. It was 2:10. It would have been ideal. And what did I do? I didn't even try to tap in. I just swiped again, and when it refreshed, that time was gone. I actually do this a lot when I'm just mindlessly playing the slots, just refreshing and refreshing. You really do kind of need to stay focused on this because when those rides pop up, it's going to be for a split second and you really got to be Johnny on the spot. So what I do, I refresh and then I just let my finger hover like I'm just ready to pounce. And by doing that action of actually hovering my finger, it reminds me I'm doing something right now. I'm not just mindlessly refreshing, I'm waiting to pounce on that lightning lane when it appears. It's a little thing, but it really does sometimes make a big difference, and it prevents you from doing what I did, which is letting a great time get away. We have a few more rides to ride, and of course we've got to enjoy the beautiful World Showcase and this amazing festival. And I've got some more advanced lightning lane tips to share, because once you get to this part of the day, we're hitting lunchtime, the park is packed. When you're in that situation, you're gonna have to up your lightning lane game. And we're gonna share with you in just a little bit some of the tips that'll help you do it. But for right now, let's go tap into our next lightning lane at the Seas with Nemo and Friends. My favorite part of that attraction is the very end, when you see Nemo and his friends, and behind them are all of the actual fish of the aquarium. Because the Seas with Nemo and Friends is actually inside of one of the largest aquariums in North America. In fact, when this was built, it was the largest saltwater aquarium in the world. You should absolutely make some time to explore this aquarium when you're here. It is stunning, and there are some amazing animals and fish that you can encounter, including manatees and rays and sharks. It is awesome that this is here at Epcot, and you don't have to pay anything extra. It's just included in your ticket. There really are several walkthrough attractions that you should experience when you're here at Epcot if you have time. And that's the beauty of Lightning Lane. It's giving you time back in your day so you can do things like explore the aquarium or go next door to the Journey of Water with Moana. That attraction is an interactive experience. Little kids will love it. And if it's a hot day and you choose to, you can get completely soaked back there. You might even want to bring an extra change of clothes for your little ones, because they might enjoy playing around in that splash pad that's part of that attraction. We had a delightful festival brunch, and then we took a moment to just really focus on lightning lanes. We had that one lightning lane for Remy that I really wanted to back up because it was so late in the day. It meant we were gonna have to come all the way to the front of the park to do Guardians and then go all the way back to the back of the park to ride Remy. Now, we could have done it, and definitely it's better to have Remy for any time than to not have it at all. But we thought that we could maybe optimize it if we just took a little time and focused. So that's what we did. We came here to the Odyssey Pavilion, which is a great place where you can grab a seat, there's air conditioning, but it's also a great place where you can focus on backing up your lightning lanes, and that's exactly what we did. This took us 11 minutes to do, but we were able to back Remy up to basically right now. So we got it for 3:05, and we got it around 2:55, which was pretty amazing. But I do want to show you right now some of the more advanced techniques that you might need to consider using when you get this late in the day. First, I want to show you a technique you would use if you were aiming for a ride that still had lightning lanes available. Now, when you modify this lightning lane, you'll see a time and it may not be the time that you want, but that's perfectly fine. What you're going to do is just tap into it anyway, because when you tap in, it's going to look at that moment to see what the best time is at that moment. So it may not be the time that you saw on the previous screen. And if you're lucky, you might see a time that is even earlier than what was there before. Now, the benefit of this is normally you have to tap in really fast if you find the time that you want and hope that you can grab it. But with this scenario, you don't need to tap in fast. You already did the tap. You have this lightning lane booked. Now, if you don't see a time that you like, all you got to do is tap back out. It's going to give you a warning. It's like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to go back? It's fine. Go back. And then you're just going to tap right in again. You don't need to refresh the view. And it's going to look again to see if there's a better time. And if you're lucky, you might find the time that you're looking for pop up there, and then you can just confirm it. You've got that ride verified booked. You don't need to worry about tapping in quickly because you just did the tap. You're already confirmed. So that's the trick that you want to use if it's a lightning lane that still exists. But if it's a lightning lane that doesn't have any times available and you are able to tap through, but you don't get the time you want, do not tap back at this point. Instead, what you would do is you would modify on that screen. You would look to see if there were other times available. Now, most cases, there won't be other times available, but this is a much easier way. Just like we did with that single pass lightning lane, it's an easy way to keep refreshing and looking to see if something comes up. And if it does, it's easier to grab it from this screen. Of course, in many cases, you're gonna tap on a time, and before it even gets to that screen, it's gonna say, womp, 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 sorry, that's no longer available. If that's the case, you just gotta buckle down and try again, and that's what we did. We actually lucked out and were able to get Remy for just about now. One thing that's important to mention, when you're playing the slots all day like we've been doing, it really runs down the battery on your phone. That's why it's super important that you pack a battery pack with you. These things are lifesavers. In fact, every lightning lane video that we make, we're only able to make because we have a battery pack with us. If you don't have one yet, I recommend this one from ANKER. It's been my favorite that I've had so far. This one's pretty massive. It's got a ton of power in it. And what I love is that it's got this USB cable already attached. So you don't have to worry about accidentally forgetting the cable for your battery pack. It's right there attached to the device. We'll put a link to this one in the description down below, but really all of the ANKER battery packs are great, and you can oftentimes find a really good deal on them over at Amazon. Right now, we're gonna head into World Showcase and just enjoy the rest of our afternoon. It's 3 o'clock. We've got 6 hours of park time, and we are completely done with booking lightning lanes and backing them up. I'm not worried about riding Remy or Frozen because I have a grace period on the back end of those lightning lanes. Even though they're currently from 3:05 to 4:05, last time we checked, you could actually still tap in for those lightning lanes up to an hour and 59 minutes late. So even though it says 4:05, as long as you're there by 6:04 and 59 seconds, it's gonna glow green and let you in. Now it's important to note, according to Disney, you officially have a 15-minute grace period on the end, and they could change it to that at any point in time. But since it's become Lightning Lane Multipass, it has had an hour and 59-minute grace period in effect. So we'll let you know with an updated video if that changes. But for right now, relax, enjoy yourself, and know that that lightning lane will still be there when you're ready to use it. How gorgeous is World Showcase right now? We actually did a whole episode over on the podcast about Epcot strategy, and one of the things that we talked about was you really need to take time to come back into all of these different World Showcase pavilions. Don't just breeze by them, actually go in, because there is so much to see and do, explore. There's amazing musicians. There's stuff for all of the different festivals going on. There's delicious things to eat. While Spaceship Earth is the most iconic attraction at this park, World Showcase is the heart and soul of this park. So you really do want to spend some time exploring back here. And again, that's the beauty of Lightning Lane. It's giving you that time back so that you can do that. And that's exactly what we've been doing. The other thing that I wanted to mention though, we're a little bit late right now for our Remy Lightning Lane because we've been enjoying World Showcase. But look at what happened once that Lightning Lane expired. So right now we have Remy, Turtle Talk with Crush, and Frozen Ever After booked, and all of them have expired. And when that Lightning Lane expires, it essentially opens that slot back up and allows us to book something else. So normally you only have 3 slots with Lightning Lane Multipass, but right now We have 5 attractions booked, and we have room to book another one if we wanted to. This is the power of that grace period we were talking about. Now, I do want to mention there are some important caveats to this grace period. Number one, it could go away at any time. So if an attraction is super important to you, you might want to be careful using that extended grace period. Number two, it does not work for shows that have posted show times. So it does work for Turtle Talk with Crush, because that's one of those shows that just repeatedly shows over and over, and you get in line and see whichever show comes up when you get to the front of the line. But for shows that have specific show times, like Festival of the Lion King, for example, or the Frozen Sing-Along over in Hollywood Studios, those shows, you cannot do this trick. You have got to use your lightning lane in the window that you're given, because it's for that specific show. But for all of the other lightning lanes, this is a huge bonus that lets you really be flexible with your time, and it lets you have more than those 3 lightning lanes booked at once. Before we hop on Remy, there are a few other things I wanted to share with you about using lightning lane. The biggest one is you can no longer book lightning lanes for character meet and greets. So here at Epcot, you can meet Figment, you can meet Mickey and the gang up towards the front of the park at Communicore Hall. But unfortunately, those are no longer offering lightning lanes as an option. So you would have to do standby for those. If you wanted to meet characters here in Epcot without having to wait in a long standby queue, you can sometimes catch them roaming around. Today, because it's Easter, we actually saw Rabbit over in the UK Pavilion, which is a really rare sighting. You'll oftentimes see princesses, though, out in their various countries. There will usually be a line for those, though. If you want to meet princesses without a line, you could book a reservation at ANKER, which is one of the character dining locations here at Epcot. You'll get a rotating mix of princesses there, and they serve up delicious Norwegian-inspired food. You can also get a dining reservation at Garden Grill, which is over at the Land Pavilion. There you can meet Farmer Mickey, Chippendale, and Pluto, and you'll enjoy a more traditional American meal. Right now, let's go whip up some ratatouille with Remy, and when we get out, we're gonna put that hour and 59-minute grace period to the test. We're gonna go to the last moment and tap in at Frozen Ever After and make sure that it still works. In the meantime, we'll enjoy World Showcase, and we'll finish our Epcot day with a ride on Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind. Let's go do it. 21-minute waits for Remy, even using the lightning lane. That's because the attraction briefly went down while we were in line. If that happens when you're in a lightning lane, it is always in your best interest to stay in that lightning lane until either the attraction comes back up or they offer to give everyone an experience redemption to come back and ride later. It can sometimes take a little while, but once they feel confident that it's not going to come back up anytime soon, they do offer those experience redemptions, and it's absolutely worth the wait. If you leave the queue before riding the attraction, in most cases, the cast members are not going to give you a redemption to return, and so you just kind of forfeit the ability to use that lightning lane. But we're not going to forfeit our ability to use that Frozen Ever After lightning lane, at least we hope not. We're going to test out the grace period. I will meet you over at Frozen Ever After at exactly 6:04 p.m. because that will be 1 minute before the 2-hour mark when the lightning lane would truly expire. With any luck, it's gonna glow green and let us into that ride. But in the meantime, I'm gonna go enjoy the rest of World Showcase. is almost time to test out our hour and 59-minute grace period. I should warn you, you do not want to cut it this close when you're here because there is a risk. If Frozen were to go down before I tap in, I don't have a valid lightning lane anymore according to the system. So it's not going to give me an experience redemption when this goes down if it were to. And if it's past that hour and 59-minute mark when it comes back, my lightning lane is no longer valid in any way, shape, or form. But in the name of science, let's find out, shall we? Does our lightning lane still work for Frozen an hour and 59 minutes after it is expired? That was cutting it very close. There was a big crowd of people right in front of me. I didn't know if I was going to make it there in time for 6:04, but I just barely made it. And still green, baby. Still works. So, at least for now, the hour and 59-minute grace period is still in effect. I'll meet you after this ride, and we'll talk about some of the attractions you cannot use Lightning Lane for, and then we'll wrap up over at Guardians of the Galaxy. What a lovely attraction that is, and it's actually looking more lovely than ever because they just redid the animatronics of Anna, Elsa, and Kristoff. They look amazing. Well, the last thing I want to talk about related to Lightning Lane here at Epcot is an important one, and that is that Epcot is the park at Disney World with the most attractions that are not available with Lightning Lane, either multi-pass or single pass. There are lots of shows around the World Showcase, like Canada Far and Wide. There's a Circle Vision show over in China. There's a Beauty and the Beast sing-along and Impressions de France over in France. The American Adventure Pavilion has an amazing show with incredible animatronics you should definitely check out. And there's even an attraction over in the Mexico Pavilion, Grand Fiesta Tour with the Three Caballeros. That one does not have a Lightning Lane either. The good news is none of these attractions tend to have super long waits. So you can do them whenever you like without having to worry with a Lightning Lane, and that's probably why Disney hasn't added Lightning Lane to them. We do have a little bit of time left before we go ride Guardians, so let's head over next door to the Mexico Pavilion and ride that attraction that doesn't have a Lightning Lane, Grand Fiesta Tour. What a perfect ending to an amazing day we just had here at Epcot. That is my favorite ride, and I love that it was the last thing we did for this video. As you can see, if you can manage to get those key rides booked early in the day, Remy, Frozen, and Test Track, you can really make everything else fall into place. The challenge is just getting those rides and getting them early. Before we go, I do want to give a huge thank you to our Patreon family. Thank you so much for supporting what we do here at Ear Scouts and making videos like this possible. If you'd like to join them and get access to exclusive bonus content, head on over to patreon.com/earscouts. And of course, I want to thank all of you. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it helpful, help us out by giving it a like, subscribing to our channel, and ringing that bell. That way you'll be notified whenever new videos like this come out. Until next time, don't forget to think happy thoughts, everybody. We'll see you again real soon.